The emergency signal cut through every communication channel in Galactic Council space. Commander Salas stood before the assembled representatives, his forearms trembling with exhaustion. The Vareth warrior had not slept in 3 days. "The Kryn swarm has taken our colony worlds," he said, his voice rough. "Tharsis. 7 fell yesterday. Meridian Station 2 days before that. They are moving toward our homeworld." The council chamber fell silent. Every species present knew what the Kryn swarm meant. The parasitic hive creatures had destroyed civilizations before. They consumed everything in their path, turning organic matter into more of themselves. The Turellian ambassador spoke first, his scales shifting to a pale color that meant fear. "How many ships do they have?" After. Our scouts counted 15,000 bioships before they stopped transmitting." Salas replied. "We estimate 20,000 now. Perhaps more." A wave of worried sounds filled the chamber. The Vareth Empire had fought the Kryn for 3 weeks. They had lost half their fleet. Now, they needed help. "We request immediate military assistance," Salas continued. "Under Article 7 of the Mutual Defense Protocol, we ask the Council to send forces." The Quarian representative, Ambassador Ven, stood next. Her people were known for careful thinking and long planning. "The Council sympathizes with your situation. However, we must consider the strategic implications. The Kryn swarm is enormous. Any force we send might also be destroyed." "You would leave us to die?" Salas asked, his voice rising. "We would preserve our own people," Ven answered. "The Verath are strong warriors. If you cannot stop the Kryn, what hope do we have?" Other ambassadors nodded in agreement. The Heptarchs suggested a strategic withdrawal. The Crystalline Collective recommended evacuating Verath civilians to other worlds. The Osean Empire offered to accept refugees, but no military aid. Salas felt his heart sinking. He had known this might happen, but he had hoped for better. The Galactic Council talked much about unity and cooperation, but when real danger came, each species thought only of itself. "Then my people will fight alone," he said quietly. "We will make the Kryn pay for every world they take." He turned to leave the chamber. The vote would happen anyway, but he already knew the result. The council would vote to do nothing. "Commander Salas," a voice called out. "Wait a moment. Wait a moment." Salas turned. The human ambassador had stood. Admiral Chen was a small woman, compared to most species in the council. Humans had joined the galactic community only 15 years ago. They were newcomers, barely trusted, often ignored. "Yes, Admiral?" Salas asked. "Before you go, could you transmit the coordinates of your homeworld and the Kryn positions?" Chen asked calmly. The chamber stirred with confused sounds. Ambassador Ven spoke sharply. "Admiral Chen, the Council has not voted yet. It is premature to discuss deployment." Chen looked at the Quarian ambassador with steady eyes. "I am not asking for the Council. I am asking for humanity." "The humans?" The Turellian ambassador made a sound like laughter. "With respect, Admiral, your species has been in space for barely 2 decades. The Verath have fought for 3 weeks and lost half their fleet. What can you possibly do? Verath have 41. Verath have fought for 3 weeks. Chen smiled, but it was not a happy expression. The vote happened as Salas expected. 23 species voted against military intervention. 12 abstained. Only 3 voted in favor, including humanity. It was not enough. Salas transmitted the coordinates to Admiral Chen as requested. He did not expect much. Perhaps the humans would send a token force, a few ships to show solidarity. It would not change the outcome, but at least someone had tried. As he left the council chamber, Ambassador Ven approached him. "Commander, please understand. We make these decisions for good reasons. The Kryn cannot be stopped by sacrifice alone." "Perhaps not," Salas replied. But they also cannot be stopped by cowardice. He returned to his ship with a heavy heart. His government needed to know the truth. The Galactic Council had abandoned them. The Varath would fight alone. 3 days later, the Varath home fleet prepared for the final defense of their world. Salas stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the long-range sensors. The Kryn swarm was approaching, a dark cloud of bioships that blotted out the stars. All ships, battle formation, he commanded. Today we show the Kryn what Varath warriors can do. Today we fight for our homes, our families, our future. His crew responded with fierce determination. They would die, probably, but they would die with honor. Then, the sensors began screaming with new contacts. "Commander!" his sensor officer shouted. "Multiple translation signatures. Something is entering the system." Salas felt his blood run cold. Had the Kryn brought more ships? Was this the end? "Identify those contacts," he ordered. The sensor officer's voice shook with disbelief. "Sir, they are human ships. Hundreds of them. No. Thousands of them." The main display updated. Salas stared at the numbers and could not believe his eyes. 847 human warships had just arrived in Varath space. The communication channel opened. Admiral Chen's voice came through clearly. "Commander Salas, 3rd Fleet of the Human Navy reporting. We received your coordinates. Sorry for the delay. We needed to bring everyone." Salas tried to speak but found no words. Chen continued. "We understand. You have a problem with some unwelcome visitors. We have experience dealing with swarms. If you are ready, Commander, we would like to help you send them a message." Salas finally found his voice. "Admiral Chen, your entire fleet. You brought everything." "Not everything," Chen replied. "Just everyone we could spare. Now, shall we discuss battle plans? We have some ideas about how to handle your Kryn problem." For the first time in weeks, Commander Salas felt something he had almost forgotten. He felt hope. Commander Salas had expected a small force. Perhaps 20 ships. Maybe 30 if the humans were generous. A symbolic gesture to show they cared. He had been grateful even for that. He had not expected this. The human 3rd Fleet filled his sensors like a metal storm. Carriers, battleships, destroyers, cruisers, support vessels. 847 warships, arranged in precise formations. It was larger than some entire planetary defense forces. Admiral Chen's flagship, the UHNS Valiant, moved alongside Salas's command ship. Through the view screen, Salas could see the human vessel. It was not the largest ship he had ever seen, but it looked solid and purposeful. Every surface seemed designed for war. "Commander Salas, permission to come aboard?" Chen's voice came through the communication system. "I think we should coordinate in person." An hour later, Salas met Admiral Chen in his ship's strategy room. The human was smaller than any Varath warrior, but she moved with quiet confidence. 2 of her officers accompanied her, both watching everything with sharp eyes. "Thank you for coming," Salas said, gesturing to seats designed for Varath physiology. The human sat awkwardly but did not complain. "I must ask, Admiral, why did you bring so many ships? This is not your fight." Chen looked at him steadily. "Commander, do you know much about human history?" "Some," Salas admitted. "You had many wars on your homeworld, before you reached the stars. We nearly destroyed ourselves," Chen said quietly. 2 centuries ago, we fought what we call the Devastation Wars. Nuclear weapons, biological attacks, chemical warfare, billions died. Our planet almost became uninhabitable. She pulled up a holographic display showing images of Earth. Cities in ruins. Landscapes turned to ash. Populations fleeing from destruction. "We learned something from those dark times," Chen continued. "We learned that evil grows when good people do nothing. We learned that turning away from others in need eventually means no one will help you when you need it. We learned that we are either all safe or none of us are. Number. Salus felt his throat tighten. The Galactic Council did not learn this lesson. Perhaps they have not suffered enough yet, Chen replied. Or perhaps they have forgotten. But humanity remembers. When you called for help, we answered. That is what we do. One of Chen's officers, a man named Captain Park, leaned forward. Commander, we need to understand the Kryn tactics. Tell us everything you know. Salus spent the next 3 hours explaining Vareth encounters with the swarm. The Kryn fought with overwhelming numbers. They used biological weapons that dissolved ship hulls. Their bioships could regenerate damage. They coordinated perfectly through their hive mind. They adapt quickly, Salus warned. Every tactic we use, they learn to counter within days. Good, Chen said, surprising him. That means they are intelligent. Intelligence can be confused. I do not understand. Chen smiled. The Varath fight with honor? Yes. You announce your presence. You challenge your enemies directly. You follow the traditional combat doctrines. Of course, Salus said, feeling slightly offended. We are warriors, not criminals, and the Kryn have learned to expect that, Captain Park added. Chen stood and walked to the tactical display. Humans learn to fight differently. We use deception. We use false retreats. We attack from unexpected angles. We make our enemies think we are doing one thing while we do another. That is, dishonorable. Salus said slowly. Perhaps, Chen agreed. But, Commander, the Kryn want to exterminate your entire species. They do not care about honor. They only care about consuming everything you are. Sometimes survival requires setting honor aside. Salus felt uncomfortable with this idea. The Varath had fought honorably for 10,000 years. It was who they were, but his people were dying. His worlds were burning. Perhaps it was time to learn a new way. Show me, he said. The first joint operation happened at the colony world of Tyros Prime. The Kryn had surrounded the planet with 5,000 bioships. Varath defenders were preparing for a final desperate assault. Chen's plan was strange to Salus. Human ships would attack from the north. They would fight hard, then suddenly retreat. The Kryn would chase them, thinking they were winning. Then the Varath fleet would strike from behind, while the enemy was distracted. What if they do not chase you? Salus asked. Then we improvise, Chen replied. But they will chase. Predators always chase fleeing prey. The human ships attacked with surprising ferocity. Missiles and railgun fire tore into the Kryn formations. The bioships responded immediately, their organic weapons firing acid streams and explosive spores. Then the human fleet turned and ran. Salus watched in amazement as 3,000 Kryn bioships broke formation to pursue. The hive mind clearly thought it had found weak enemies. The Kryn loved easy prey. Now, Commander, Chen said calmly. Salus gave the order. The Varath fleet dropped out of high orbit directly behind the Kryn pursuers. Plasma cannons and particle beams caught the bioships in a deadly crossfire. Caught between two forces, unable to coordinate, the Kryn formation collapsed. Half the enemy force was destroyed in 20 minutes. Impossible, Salus whispered. His people had fought the Kryn for weeks without a clear victory. Now, with human help, they had won a major battle in less than an hour. Not impossible, Chen corrected. Just different. The Kryn are used to fighting opponents who announce their intentions. We do not give them that advantage. Just Klost 2R5. Over the next week, human and Varath forces worked together to liberate 3 colony worlds. Each battle used different tactics. Sometimes humans pretended to be disabled, luring Kryn ships into traps. Sometimes they broadcast false communications to confuse the hive mind. Sometimes they attacked from multiple directions simultaneously, forcing the Kryn to split their attention. The Varath warriors learned quickly. They began to appreciate human creativity, even if some tactics felt uncomfortable. Salus found himself respecting Admiral Chen more each day. The human commander never rested. She studied every battle report, adjusted every strategy, remembered every lesson. She attended memorial services for both human and Varath casualties, honoring the dead of both species equally. One evening, after a particularly difficult battle, Salas found Chen staring at the casualty lists. 53 humans died today, she said quietly. For a world they had never visited. To save people they had never met. Why do you do this? Salas asked again. Your people could be safe at home. Instead they die in our space. Chen looked at him with tired eyes. Because someone has to, Commander. Because the galaxy needs to learn that we protect each other. Or we all fall separately. Because humanity decided long ago that we would rather die standing with friends than live kneeling in safety. She returned to her work, studying the next battle plan. Salas understood then. Humans were not fighting for glory or territory. They were fighting because they believed it was right. In his long warrior's life, he had met many brave soldiers, but he had never met anyone quite like these strange, determined humans. He hoped it would be enough. Because in 3 days, intelligence reported something terrifying. The Kryn swarm was calling for reinforcements. The intelligence report arrived during a strategy meeting. Captain Park delivered it personally. His face grim. Admiral, we have intercepted Kryn biosignals. They are calling something. The signal pattern suggests a hive queen response. Admiral Chen looked up sharply. How long until arrival? 2 weeks, maybe 3. And Admiral, Park hesitated. The response signal suggests a massive force. Possibly 3 million bioships. The room fell silent. Even Commander Salas, who had faced death many times, felt his blood turn cold. 3 million ships. It was more than the entire Galactic Council fleet combined. We should prepare evacuation protocols, one of Salas's officers said quietly. Get the civilians off Varath Prime while we still can. No, Chen said firmly. We did not come here to watch your people scatter. We came to help you stand. 2. Admiral, with respect, 3 million ships, Salas began. I know the numbers, Commander, Chen interrupted. I also know that running means the Kryn win. They take your worlds, consume your civilization, and then move on to the next species. Someone has to stop them here. She stood and walked to the tactical display, studying the map of Varath space. We have 2 weeks. Let us use them well. But even Chen's determination could not change reality. The Kryn were learning. At the Battle of Tharsis Prime, human tactics met their first serious challenge. The joint fleet used their now practiced strategy. False retreat, flanking attack, overwhelming firepower. But this time, the Kryn did not chase. They held formation, forcing the human and Varath ships to attack head-on. The battle lasted 8 hours. Both sides took heavy casualties. When it finally ended, the Kryn had been pushed back, but the cost was terrible. 32 human ships destroyed, 18 Varath vessels crippled. Over 3,000 casualties. Salas walked through the medical bay of his flagship, looking at the wounded. Varath warriors lay next to human crew members. The doctors worked on everyone, not caring about species. A young human medic was treating a Varath soldier's burned arm, speaking gently despite the language barrier. Your people should not be here, Salas said to a wounded human officer. The man had lost his left leg in an explosion. This is not your war. One intend about. You are war. The officer looked at him with pain-filled eyes. Commander, with respect, I disagree. This is everyone's war. If the Kryn win here, they will keep spreading. Eventually, they will reach human space. Better to stop them now, together, than face them alone later. That evening, Salas found Admiral Chen in her quarters. She was writing letters, he realized. Messages to the families of the dead. I write one for each casualty, Chen explained. They deserve to know their sacrifice mattered. That someone remembers. Admiral, I must ask you something, Solace said. When the reinforcements arrive, we will be outnumbered 50-1. Perhaps more. Your fleet will be destroyed. Why do you stay? Chen finished the letter she was writing before answering. Commander, may I tell you another story about humanity? Solace sat down. Chen poured 2 glasses of something called whiskey, a human drink. She handed one to Solace. 300 years ago, there was a place on Earth called Thermopylae, she began. A small force of soldiers held a narrow pass against an army of millions. They knew they could not win. They knew they would all die. But they fought anyway, because holding that pass gave their people time to prepare. Their sacrifice saved their civilization. She took a sip of her drink. Humans remember stories like that. We teach them to our children. We honor people who stand when they should fall, who fight when they should flee. Not because we love death, Commander, but because we love what we are protecting more than we fear dying. The Galactic Council thinks we are fools, Chen continued. Perhaps they are right. But I would rather be a fool who tried than a coward who watched. Solace drank the whiskey. It burned his throat, but the warmth that followed felt good. Yes, Chen agreed. We are. News of the approaching Kryn reinforcements spread throughout Verath space. The civilian government began quietly preparing evacuation ships. Military high command debated whether to order a general retreat. Some argued that preserving the Verath people was more important than preserving their homeworld. The Galactic Council watched from a safe distance. Some species sent messages of sympathy. A few sent supplies, claiming they were for humanitarian purposes, but afraid to openly support the military effort. Most stayed silent. But something unexpected began to happen. Ships started arriving in Verath space. Not military vessels, but civilian ships from a dozen different species. Transports carrying medical supplies. Engineering vessels offering to repair damaged warships. Even food shipments for the defenders. Aquarian merchant captain explained it to Solace during an unloading operation. The council says we should not help you. But I have a daughter. She asked me what I told my grandchildren when they ask what I did when the Verath needed help. I could not answer her. More ships came. The Osean Empire quietly sent ammunition, claiming it was surplus they needed to dispose of. The Crystalline Collective transmitted tactical data about Kryn weaknesses they had discovered centuries ago. Even some Torellian vessels appeared, bringing medical personnel who volunteered to help in the hospitals. The council does not speak for everyone, one volunteer explained. Admiral Chen watched this quiet rebellion with satisfaction. See, Commander? Not everyone forgot. They just needed someone to go first. But the approaching storm grew darker every day. Long-range sensors tracked the Hive Queen's fleet as it moved through space. 3 million bioships. Like a living cloud of death. It would arrive in 6 days. On the 5th day before arrival, Solace called a meeting of all senior Verath officers. The mood was somber. Everyone knew what the numbers meant. We will make our stand at Verath Prime, Solace announced. We will position the fleet in orbit and fight with everything we have. If we fall, at least we fall defending our homeworld. 17. Olivant. I'll see. I'll see. Insiders. I'll see. I'll see. His officers accepted this quietly. It was a good death. An honorable death. They would sing songs about this battle for generations. Assuming any Verath survived. To sing them. That night, Solace could not sleep. He walked the corridors of his ship, checking on his crew. They were preparing, cleaning weapons, writing final messages to families. Everyone knew what tomorrow would bring. He found himself at an observation window, staring at Verath Prime below. His homeworld, beautiful and blue, full of billions of lives. Children playing, families eating together, artists creating, teachers instructing. All of it about to be consumed by the swarm. Beautiful planet, Admiral Chen said, appearing beside him. She also could not sleep. Apparently. It has been our home for 12,000 years, Solace replied. Now we will lose it. Maybe, Chen said. Maybe not. A lot can happen in a battle. Admiral, please. We both know the mathematics. 3 million ships against our few thousand. Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. That strange human expression that could mean so many things. Commander, I need to tell you something. I sent a message to Earth 4 days ago. I requested reinforcements. Solace felt a spike of hope, quickly crushed by reality. Admiral, even if they send ships, they cannot arrive in time. It takes weeks to travel from human space to here. Yes, Chen agreed. If they were coming from human space. But I did not ask for ships from home. She pulled up a display on her communication device. I asked for every human ship in the galaxy. Every fleet, every patrol, every vessel that could reach us. They have been translating in from different directions for the past 2 days. I wanted to surprise you. The display showed new sensor readings. Solace stared at the numbers and felt his heart stop. More human ships were arriving. Hundreds of them. Thousands of them. How many? He whispered. Chen's smile grew wider. All of them, Commander. We are bringing every warship humanity has. Because that is what you do for friends. You give everything. The Kryn reinforcements arrived like a nightmare made real. The Hive Queen's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Vareth system. 3 million bioships, their organic hulls pulsing with dark life. They covered the stars like a plague. On the bridge of his flagship, Commander Solace watched the sensors with mounting dread. Even with human reinforcements, they were outnumbered 10 to 1. Perhaps 15 to 1. All civilian ships have completed evacuation, his communications officer reported. The government has relocated to the southern continent bunkers. Solace nodded. At least the civilians would be safe for a while. When the fleet fell, the Kryn would descend to the planet. But every hour the fleet held out, gave people more time to hide, to pray, to say goodbye to each other. Commander. Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication channel. Are you ready? Are you ready? Solace looked at the tactical display one more time. The human fleet had positioned itself in 3 layers around Vareth Prime. First Fleet, Second Fleet, Fourth Fleet, Fifth Fleet, and the original Third Fleet, over 3,000 human warships, arranged in a defensive sphere, and behind them, the Vareth Home Fleet. 1,000 ships, all that remained of their once mighty navy. We are ready, Admiral, Solace replied. Today, we make our stand. Today we show them what happens when they threaten our friends, Chen corrected. The Kryn swarm advanced slowly, methodically. They did not rush. They knew their numerical advantage. The Hive Queen's massive vessel stayed in the center, protected by hundreds of thousands of smaller bioships. They are confident, Solace observed. Good, Chen replied. Confident enemies make mistakes. The battle began when the Kryn entered maximum weapons range. The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Missiles streaked across space by the thousands. Railguns fired depleted uranium rounds at relativistic speeds. Energy weapons carved through bioship formations. The Kryn answered with their biological weapons. Acid clouds that ate through metal. Explosive spores that detonated against shields. Living projectiles that tried to burrow into ship hulls. The space between the fleets became a storm of destruction. Solace had fought in many battles. He had seen planetary bombardments and fleet actions that lasted for days. But he had never seen anything like this. The sheer scale of the combat was overwhelming. Thousands of ships fighting, dying, exploding in every direction. Human First Fleet is taking heavy damage, his tactical officer reported. They have lost 30% of their ships. On the communications channel, Solace could hear human captains giving orders, coordinating attacks, calling out targets. Their voices were calm, professional, even as their ships burned around them. Second Fleet, push forward. Cover First Fleet's withdrawal, Admiral Chen ordered. Fourth Fleet, target that bioship cluster at coordinates 479. Fifth Fleet, prepare ramming protocols. Ramming protocols? Salas asked, horrified. Admiral, surely. Sometimes, a destroyed ship can do more damage than a fighting one. Chen replied grimly. If a captain knows his vessel is lost anyway, better to take enemies with him. Salas watched as 3 human destroyers, their hulls breached and their crews dying, turned toward a Kryn formation and activated their engines at full power. The ships smashed into the bioships like hammers. The resulting explosions destroyed dozens of enemy vessels. Human Second Fleet is requesting support, Salas's communications officer called out. They are surrounded. All Vareth wings, attack formation, Salas commanded. We will break through to them. His fleet surged forward. Vareth warriors knew how to fight. They had done it for 10,000 years. Now, they fought not just for themselves, but for the humans who had come to save them. The battle raged for 6 hours. The space around Varath Prime became a graveyard of ships. Human vessels floated dead in the void, their hulls torn open. Bioships drifted, their organic systems failing. Debris fields spread in every direction, but slowly, terribly, the mathematics of the battle became clear. There were simply too many Kryn. For every bioship destroyed, 2 more took its place. The human fleet was being ground down by sheer numbers. Commander. My ship is hit. Captain Park's voice came through, strained with pain. Engineering is gone. Life support failing. Tell the Admiral. Tell her it was an honor. Park's destroyer exploded 3 seconds later. Salas closed his eyes briefly. Another good officer dead. Another family that would receive a message of condolence. Human casualties are at 40%. His tactical officer reported quietly. Vareth fleet at 35%. They were losing. All ships, pull back to the secondary defensive line, Admiral Chen ordered. Her voice was still calm, but Salas could hear the stress underneath. Tighten the formation. Make them pay for every meter of space. Then something changed. Admiral. A human sensor operator shouted. I am detecting a signal pattern within the swarm. It is different from the normal hive communication. Explain, Chen demanded. It is like a control signal. Very powerful. Very focused. It is coming from the Hive Queen's vessel. Chen was silent for 3 seconds. Then she laughed, a sound of grim satisfaction. That is it. That is their weakness. They are not truly a hive mind. They are puppets, and she is pulling the strings. She opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships. New priority target. We need to locate the exact position of the Hive Queen. Scan for that control signal. Find her, and we can end this. Admiral, she is protected by thousands of bioships, Salas protested. We cannot reach her. We can, if we focus everything on one attack, Chen replied. Commander, I need your best warriors. I need people who can fly through hell and come out the other side. Salas understood immediately. You want to send a strike team directly at the Queen. Yes, it will be a one-way mission. Most of the ships will not survive. But if we kill the Queen, the swarm loses coordination. We can win this. Salas looked at his bridge crew. They all looked back at him. He saw the answer in their eyes. My flagship will lead the strike, Salas said. Like hell you will, Chen replied. You are the Varath commander. Your people need you alive. I will lead the human contingent. You coordinate from here, Admiral. That is an order, Commander, Chen said firmly. Besides, I am not planning to die today. I have too much paperwork waiting for me. The strike force assembled quickly. 50 human ships, 30 Varath vessels, the best pilots, the best warriors, the most experienced crews. They all knew what they were volunteering for. Remember, Chen told them over the communication channel, Get close to the Queen and hit her with everything you have. Nuclear weapons, kinetic strikes, energy weapons, everything. If you can ram her, ram her. Make it count. The strike force launched, diving into the swarm like a spear thrust into flesh. The Kryn reacted immediately, diverting thousands of bioships to stop them. Space became a meat grinder. Ships died. The strike force pushed forward anyway. A human cruiser took a direct hit, its reactor breaching. The captain fired his remaining missiles before his ship broke apart. A Vareth destroyer lost its engines but continued firing, drifting helplessly as bioships swarmed over it. The force kept pushing, kept dying, kept fighting. "We have visual on the Queen." Chen's voice came through. "All remaining ships, converge on my position." "This is it." Salus watched from his bridge as the strike force reached the Hive Queen. The Queen was massive, 10 times the size of the largest human battleship. Her hull pulsed with organic power. Hundreds of weapons bristled from her surface. The strike force attacked with desperate fury. Nuclear weapons detonated against her shields. Railgun fire tore through her protective layers. Energy beams burned into her flesh. Admiral Chen's flagship, the Valiant, was damaged badly. Half her ship was gone, but she was still flying on emergency power. "Commander Salus," Chen transmitted, "it has been an honor serving with you. Tell the Council. Tell them humans always finish what they start." The Valiant accelerated, its engines burning at maximum power. Chen aimed her ship directly at the Hive Queen's central mass. At the last moment, she fired every remaining weapon. The Valiant struck the Queen at relativistic speed. The explosion lit up space like a small star. When the light faded, the Hive Queen was dead, her massive body torn in half, drifting in pieces. And across the battlefield, 3 million Kryn bioships suddenly stopped coordinating. Without the Queen's control, they were just mindless creatures. "All ships," Salus heard himself saying, his voice shaking. "Target the Kryn. They are vulnerable. End this. End it for Admiral Chen. End it for everyone who died today." The human and Varath fleets surged forward. The battle became a slaughter. Disorganized bioships were destroyed by the thousands. Within 2 hours, the Kryn swarm was broken. The survivors fleeing into deep space. Vareth Prime was saved. But the cost had been terrible. Over 40% of the human fleet was gone. More than 1,000 ships destroyed. Tens of thousands dead. And somewhere in the debris field, Admiral Chen's body floated in the wreckage of her ship, another casualty of a war that was not even hers. Salus wept openly on his bridge, and none of his warriors thought less of him for it. The medical bay was quiet, except for the sound of breathing machines and soft monitoring equipment. Commander Salus walked slowly between the beds, looking at the wounded. Human and Varath, lying side by side, recovering from injuries that should have killed them. He stopped at one bed near the window. Admiral Chen lay there, alive but barely. The medics had found her in an escape pod, ejected automatically when the Valiant's hull breached. She had been unconscious for 3 days. "Admiral," Salus said softly. "Can you hear me?" Chen's eyes opened slowly. She looked confused for a moment, then focused on Salus. "Did we win?" she whispered, her voice rough. "Yes," Salus replied. "The Kryn are gone. Vareth Prime stands. Your sacrifice was not in vain." Chen tried to sit up but winced in pain. "Destroyed. But you killed the Hive Queen." "My crew?" Salus hesitated. 37 survivors from the Valiant. The rest died in the attack. Thanks for watching. The next resonance. 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 Chen closed her eyes. Tears ran down her face. So many. So many. Dead. But billions live because of them, Salus said gently. Because of you. Because humanity answered when no one else would. A human medical officer approached. "Admiral, You need rest. Your injuries are serious. You should not have survived. Apparently, I am too stubborn to die. Chen replied with a weak smile. Has anyone contacted Earth? Yes, Admiral. The government is sending replacements and support. They will arrive in 2 weeks. Chen nodded and closed her eyes again. Salas left her to rest. He had other duties to attend to. The Galactic Council had called an emergency session. They wanted to discuss the battle, the human casualties, the fate of the Verath. Salas had some things to say to them. The council chamber was full when Salas arrived. Every species had sent representatives. Ambassador Ven looked uncomfortable. The Torellian ambassador avoided eye contact. Other representatives whispered among themselves. Commander Salas, the council speaker began, we are grateful for your survival. We understand the Kryn threat has been eliminated. No thanks to this council, Salas replied coldly. We made a strategic decision, Ven started. You made a cowardly decision, Salas interrupted. While you debated and worried about your own safety, humanity acted. They sent their entire fleet. They left their homeworld, defended only by orbital stations. They risked everything to save strangers. He pulled up a holographic display showing casualty numbers. 1,347 human ships destroyed, 43,000 human personnel dead, another 20,000 wounded. This is what it cost to save my people. This is what humanity paid while you watched from safety. The chamber fell silent. Several ambassadors looked ashamed. Others looked defensive. The council must discuss appropriate responses, the speaker said carefully. Perhaps reparations to humanity for their losses. Reparations? Salas laughed bitterly. You think you can pay for what they did? They did not come for money. They came because it was right, because they believe in something you have all forgotten. They believe we protect each other. A new voice spoke up. It was Ambassador Torin from the Heptarch Confederation. Commander Salas. Humanity's actions were admirable, but also reckless. They left Earth vulnerable. They committed their entire military force to another species' war. This sets a dangerous precedent. Dangerous to whom? Salas asked. To the Council? To your comfortable politics? Or dangerous because it shows how hollow your words about unity and cooperation really are? He turned to face the entire assembly. Humanity has been part of this council for 15 years. You have treated them as newcomers, as primitives who do not understand galactic civilization, but they understand something you have forgotten. They understand that power without responsibility is meaningless, that safety without courage is temporary, that civilization without solidarity eventually falls. Number 4. 1-1. Everyone. 1-1. I propose the Verath Empire formally withdraw from the Galactic Council, Salas continued. We will instead establish a mutual defense pact with humanity. Any species that wishes to join us, any species that believes in actually helping each other rather than just talking about it, is welcome. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. The council speaker called for order. Commander, you cannot be serious, Ven protested. The Galactic Council has maintained peace for 3,000 years, by letting species die when it is inconvenient to help them. Salas finished. That is not peace. That is cowardice, dressed up as strategy. Ambassador Torin stood. If the Verath leave, they will be isolated. No trade agreements, no diplomatic protection. We will have humanity. And we will have our honor. That is enough. He turned to leave, but another voice stopped him. Wait. It was Ambassador Kellis from the Osean Empire. The elderly ambassador stood slowly. The Osean Empire wishes to join this new alliance. We also believe the Council has lost its way. Another ambassador stood. Then another. Soon, 12 species had declared their intention to join the Human Verath Alliance. Nearly half the council. The chamber descended into chaos. The council speaker tried to restore order, but failed. The careful political structure that had existed for millennia was fracturing. Salus left them to their arguments. He had more important things to do. 6 months passed. The Human-Verath Defensive Pact grew stronger. Trade agreements were established. Joint military exercises became common. Human crews learned from Verath warriors. Verath officers studied human tactics. Earth rebuilt its fleet, though the losses from the Kryn battle would take years to fully replace. The human government never complained. When questioned by journalists, the president said simply, "We did what was necessary. We would do it again." Admiral Chen recovered from her injuries, though she walked with a slight limp now. She was promoted and given command of the new 1st Combined Fleet, a joint human-Verath force. At her insistence, the fleet's motto was engraved on every ship: "We answer the call." Then came the test of the new alliance. 3 rogue species, emboldened by humanity's weakened fleet, attacked a human colony on the frontier. They thought Earth was vulnerable, that humans had overextended themselves helping the Verath. They were wrong. Before humanity could even mobilize a response fleet, 12 galactic navies translated into the system. The Verath came first, with Commander Salus personally leading the response force. "Human colony vessel, this is Commander Salus of the Verath Empire," he transmitted. "We received your distress signal. Hostile forces are ordered to withdraw immediately or face destruction." The attackers saw 5,000 warships suddenly appear and made a hasty retreat. Not a single shot was fired. The colony administrator transmitted a message of thanks. "Commander, how did you arrive so quickly? We only sent the distress signal 20 minutes ago. We have been patrolling nearby since the Kryn battle," Salus explained. "Humanity answered our call when we needed help. The Verath will always answer yours. That is what allies do." Quote, news of the incident spread across the galaxy. The message was clear. Attacking humanity meant fighting all their allies. And humanity had made many friends. The Galactic Council tried to maintain relevance, but their influence was fading. Species saw that real security came from genuine alliances, not from political speeches and empty promises. More species approached the Human-Verath Pact, asking to join. 1 year after the battle, a memorial was dedicated on Verath Prime. It stood in the capital city, a massive structure of stone and metal. Engraved on its surface were the names of every human who had died defending the Verath homeworld. 43,000 names, carved in precise letters. At the dedication ceremony, Commander Salus stood next to Admiral Chen. His government had recently promoted him to Supreme Commander of all Verath forces. Chen had joked that they had both been rewarded for surviving. "Do you ever regret it?" Salus asked quietly. "Losing so many ships, so many people, for a species you barely knew?" Chen looked at the memorial, at the endless rows of names. "Every day, I think about the cost. Every day, I wonder if I made the right choices. But regret? No." She turned to face him. "Those people died believing they were protecting something important. They died believing that civilization means standing together. They died believing that humanity's strength comes from helping others, not from hiding behind walls." A young Verath child approached, holding a flower. She placed it at the base of the memorial, then looked up at Salus with wide eyes. "Commander, my teacher says the humans saved us. Is that true?" "Yes," Salus replied. "When we needed help, when everyone else turned away, the humans came. They fought for us. Many of them died for us." "Why?" the child asked. Salus glanced at Admiral Chen, who smiled and nodded at him to answer. "Because," Salus said carefully, "they believe that what happens to you matters to them. They believe we are all connected. They believe that protecting others makes everyone stronger." The child considered this seriously. "My mother says I should grow up to be like a human, brave and kind." "Your mother is very wise," Chen said. kneeling down to the child's level. But you know what? I think you should grow up to be like both our peoples. Take the best from Verath and the best from humans. That is how we build a better galaxy. The child smiled and ran back to her family. That evening, Solace and Chen sat in a quiet restaurant overlooking the city. Below them, Verath Prime glowed with life. Cities full of people who would have been consumed by the Kryn, children who would never have been born. A civilization that would have been erased from existence. The Council still thinks we are reckless, Chen said, sipping her drink. They say humanity changed everything. Disrupted the careful balance of galactic politics. They are right, Solace replied. You did change everything. Is that good or bad? Solace looked out at his homeworld, alive and thriving. He thought about the alliance growing stronger every day. He thought about species, learning to trust each other, to help each other, to stand together. I think, he said slowly, that sometimes everything needs to change. The old ways were not working. Species were dying, while others debated. The galaxy was fragmenting into isolated, fearful communities. You showed us another path. We just did what felt right, Chen said. That is the point, Admiral. You followed your conscience instead of your fear. You risked everything for people you had never met. That is not recklessness. That is courage. That is what civilization should be. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of purple and gold. Somewhere above them, human and Verath ships patrolled together, protecting the fragile peace they had fought so hard to win. The Kryn Swarm's other hive queens, those that had survived the destruction of their sister, learned a harsh lesson. They avoided Verath space entirely. More importantly, they avoided human space. The price of attacking humanity's friends was simply too high. And across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds, people looked up at the stars and felt a little safer. Because they knew that if darkness came, if enemies threatened their homes, someone would answer their call. The humans had proven that. And they had taught others to do the same. That, Commander Solace thought, was worth any price.